The audience which the product was made for, right? You went completely the opposite way, and then you got mad at the audience. It don't make sense. You gotta be smarter than that. You gotta be smarter than that.
Now, the little people who were removed from the film are now planning a class action lawsuit against Disney for replacing them with cartoons. This is so ridiculous. Actress.
Let me just get a little chuckle in too, man. This is completely insane. And welcome back to Mischief Entertainment, man. As you can see on the screen, we are reacting to how an entitled no-name actor destroyed a Disney classic. Now, you may feel a lot of things about this movie, right? But I'm just gonna say those were my words. I was just reading the title because I feel like bro just kind of went in a little bit. If you don't know who said no-name actor is, he's talking about Rachel Ziegler. At this point, I feel like everyone kind of knows who Rachel Ziegler is, but not for good reasons. I said we were gonna do movie reviews, so here we are, reviewing another movie. Now listen, I haven't seen this movie at all, but for the purposes of talking about, and I guess to a certain extent a little bit, reviewing the movie, we are here today watching how an entitled no-name actor destroyed a Disney classic. This might go down as the worst movie of all time. And we were there through all of it. Like this is literally history in the making. So let's talk about movies. Let's talk about this movie specifically, man. Let's get to it. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let's play the video.
For years that their live-action remake of Snow White would be an abysmal failure. They ignored the warnings and instead made every wrong decision possible, leading to a box office bomb. Theaters around the world are empty. The film sold 50% less than they projected. It earned a 1.6 out of 10 star rating on IMDb, a 20% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The CGI dwarves will give you nightmares, and the little people they replaced with CGI have filed a class action lawsuit against Disney.
Y'all can't get away, huh? I ain't gonna lie, that was a lot right there. The last thing I was expecting was the lawsuit. You can't win for nothing, can you?
Disney himself is turning in his grave because he personally requested that the company should never change, alter, or remake Snow White, but they did it anyway by casting Rachel Zegler, who insisted that they change the entire film to make it more politically correct. Rachel called the original Prince Charming a stalker, insisted that Snow White was not yearning for love, but actually dreamed of being a leader. Rachel also demanded she be paid more for, quote, standing in a dress for 18 hours. Zegler created so much controversy that Disney had to hire a personal security detail for her co-star Gal Gadot because of the countless death threats she was receiving. This movie is an absolute dumpster fire, and Rachel's response to the film bombing proved that everyone's suspicions about her were correct.
I'm a narcissist.
And yet none of that has anything to do with why people were suspicious about Rachel Zegler in the first place. In 2018, Rachel's friend sent her a tweet about an open casting call.
Real quick, before he go on and talk about that, let me just say real quick, because he did say a lot of things right there, a lot of things. I will admit, it's crazy to me, because I will tell y'all this right now. The way I found out about this movie was completely by negative press. Now, let me tell you, it takes a lot for me to click on something, you know? I don't really like being on social media or necessarily my phone too much, you know? And I don't really care about what's going on in the world too much. Not too much, okay? The world is crazy. Crazy stuff's going to be going on. I know it's going to happen. I don't need to see it, click on it, none of that, you know what I'm saying? But I do find it crazy that the most publicity for this movie, the way most people found out about this movie, is because of drama, basically. It's because of all the stuff that was being, and nothing good about the movie. I don't think I've ever seen a movie, cause like listen, only thing I can think of really is maybe Sonic. That's the only thing that's coming to my mind right now. When we saw Sonic the first time, we're like, ooh, Sonic's ugly. You gotta change this. But that wasn't necessarily negative press from the start. From when they started filming to the release of the trailer to the release in theaters, it was nothing but bad all around the board. I don't think I've ever seen that from a movie. So, shout out to them for getting that done, I guess.
For Steven Spielberg's film adaptation of West Side Story. So 16-year-old Zegler recorded and submitted an audition tape.
Bernardo and Anita argue all morning about a fight that's gonna happen tonight?
Now, she was definitely a promising young talent. She spent her childhood acting in countless plays and developed an impressive singing voice. Rachel was just one of 30,000 who auditioned for the role of Maria. Without any professional acting experience, an agent, or connections in Hollywood, she was selected for the lead role.
Hold on, man. That's amazing. Listen, we could talk about the movie and all the stuff she did bad all you want. That's cold right there. I ain't even gonna lie. She put in her work to make that happen. No agent, no none of that. And all you sent in was a tape.
Performance earned critical acclaim, and she went on to win the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. The industry plant accusations were formed because some people simply do not believe that a no-name actor could get this lucky. She was basically hand-selected by Steven Spielberg. Then again, with the entertainment industry being flooded with nepo babies and people born into immense wealth, Rachel being essentially a random girl from New Jersey securing an A-list role actually might be a step in the right direction for Hollywood. However, they may have chose the wrong girl, because her inability to keep her politically charged opinions to herself started to cause problems for Disney executives. As if West Side Story wasn't already a massive introduction to Hollywood, her next role was even bigger, one that could set her up for a lifetime of success, and that was being cast as Snow White in Disney's live-action remake of the classic. Rachel chose to make this monumental announcement on Twitter where she wrote, "Yes, I am Snow White. No, I am not bleaching my skin for the role." Rachel deleted this tweet shortly after sending it out to the world. However, the reason she brought up her skin color in the first place was to address the criticism she was receiving online. In the original fairy tale and the 1937 animated film, Snow White is depicted as having skin as white as snow. It is quite literally the inception of the princess's identity. But Rachel Zegler is of Colombian descent and has more of an olive skin tone. Now, there definitely were some extreme takes, suggesting that Disney is evil and only casting POC characters to cause outrage. There were also some blatantly racist takes, but most people were just genuinely confused why Snow White wasn't going to be white. And this does seem to be a recurring theme for Disney these days. The original 1989 animation of The Little Mermaid depicted Ariel as a white woman, whereas the 2023 live-action remake cast Halle Bailey as Ariel, who is African American. And yes, this film was also accused of pandering, trying to change something that was a non-issue in the first place. However, defenders pointed out that mermaids don't have a race because they are not real. Normally, these controversies lead to failure, but the film grossed over $560 million worldwide and made a solid profit. But Ziegler insisted that the Snow White remake was based on an alternative version of the story, one that doesn't have to do with her skin color. She said, "It fell back to another version of Snow White that was told in history, where she survived a snowstorm that occurred when she was a baby, and so the king and queen decided to name her Snow White to remind her of her resilience. One of the core points in our film for any young woman or young person is remembering how strong you actually are."
Listen, hold on. Okay, there we go. His eyes are doing something weird on the screen. I ain't want that up there while I'm talking. Let me just say something real quick. Am I the only one who finds this very weird? And I also find it very interesting. It's very confusing. But here's my question: what are we doing? Are we really, as people / grown adults / our society, getting this worked up over races in movies? Listen, I don't know about y'all, but for the most part, if I don't care, well, hold on. Sorry. Let me start over. I don't care about the race. When we talk about characters in movies, can you embody what that character means? You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel about it. All this other stuff, it's just, I find it very interesting and very confusing. Like, why even have that story? She said this Snow White, all right, now I'm not blaming Ziegler for this one or anything. I'm just saying, like, the fact that they even felt the need to have to explain why Snow White isn't white is crazy to me. She's not. For this movie, they chose not to. Maybe for a different movie, this person's supposed to be this, but they went a different direction. You know, the person just does just the greatest job as playing that character. Who cares? I feel like I'm losing my mind. I was listening to him explain all of that. I was getting confused, and I'm like, this is really a thing. So this is what we're doing now. This is what we're doing now. Oh,
It may seem like a small nuance that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It was an insight into the major changes that were coming next, because the more Zegler talked about the film, the more it seemed like it was going to be a disaster, particularly in this Variety interview where she talked about how she and the writers are giving Snow White a modern twist.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince. She's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Snow White dreams of being a leader? Why not write a totally new story instead of remaking the old ones? It has nothing to do with Snow White.
I'm not gonna lie, they got you. They got you. That's how I felt about, like, I heard a lot of the stuff that she said surrounding the movies. That's how I felt about it too. Like Snow, some of these stories that we watch get made into movies and TV shows and some books and such things, right? We buy them because we like them for the most part the way they are. Now, we don't have a problem with you throwing a twist in it, aka like Marvel does with the Marvel movies. Like, they don't exactly follow the comics, but it's like based off of the comics and it kind of goes in that direction. See, now, if you wanted to make some minor changes to Snow White but have the overall picture of what Snow White is still be the same, the heart of Snow White, if you would have left the heart of Snow White alone, there wouldn't have been a problem. If you want to tell a story about a young woman that has to overcome adversity and all, you can do that. There's probably an audience for that. There's people who want to see that. I might watch that depending on what the story is about, you know what I'm saying? But why mess with something you know people like? Why do that? The audience which the product was made for, right? You went completely the opposite way, and then you got mad at the audience. It don't make sense. You gotta be smarter than that. You gotta be smarter than that.
Zegler, there is nothing wrong with dreaming about true love. But people were not overreacting in the comments. Zegler supported stripping this classic story of its roots.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. Super weird. So we didn't do that this time.
Rachel's tone might come off silly to some, but it is evidently so sarcastic. Referring to Prince Charming as a stalker is inaccurate and disrespectful. We are not talking about just any Disney film. We are talking about the first ever full-length animated feature film in history. This is quite literally Walt Disney's baby. Now, people are already a little apprehensive towards the countless remakes of old Disney classics, but Rachel's lack of class and grace pushed anyone who was even a little open-minded away. Despite that, she continued to express her disdain for the original film.
I was scared of the original cartoon. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once, never revisited Snow White again.
What's interesting about Rachel claiming to be scared of the original film is that she also said the exact opposite during her press tour, showing pictures of her as a child in her Snow White dress and how she always dreamed as a little girl of being this princess. This constant flip-flopping along with her sarcastic tone just soured people's perception of her. But not only did she seem unappreciative of a Disney classic, she also made some interesting comments about her next role as Anthea in Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
What made you want to step into this world of DC heroes?
I needed a job. I'm being so serious.
While yes, even actors have bills to pay and need a job to do that, some interpreted the remark as snarky and annoying. Now, to be fair, later in the interview, Rachel does go on to express her gratitude for receiving this role, considering it was only her second Hollywood film ever. But her unapologetic attitude on the red carpet continued to stir the pot, and she just kept making it worse, specifically during the writers' strike of 2023. The Writers Guild of America represents thousands of writers writers
that.
in film, TV, radio, and online media. They are the backbone of Hollywood's content. Despite their importance, Hollywood executives restructured the industry to drastically reduce residual payments, leaving most writers with little to no income after their work is uploaded to apps like Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, etc. So the guild went on a strike to renegotiate and push for higher pay. Rachel Zegler also used her
No, shout out them real quick though, because they tried to finesse y'all out y'all money. They tried to take y'all out of what y'all work for. The writers of the show, the writers who make the show what the show is. Listen, I said earlier, I heard about it. It was a little while ago. You know, a lot of stuff be going on with me, you know. But I do know it came to an end, and I'm gonna guess y'all got what y'all was looking for. Shout out y'all. You know, never let nobody bully y'all or try to take advantage of y'all. They stood on business. Shout out
voice
the
to
writers,
support
man.
the strike.
If I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
She's like everything people hate about this generation distilled into a single person. At this point, I'm sure you are noticing a pattern. While we hope that deep down Rachel's intentions are pure, and we hope that she truly is just trying to have an overall positive impact on the world, she has a terrible way of expressing her opinions, as her tone often comes off as disrespectful. Having 2 movies under her belt and already aggressively demanding higher pay came off extremely entitled, especially considering the strike was mostly for writers, because main characters, like Zegler, are often compensated extremely generously. By this point, her reputation was at an all-time low, and there were even rumors circulating that Disney was going to axe this film, as countless people expressed that Rachel Zegler is the sole reason that they would not go to watch the movie. But then somehow, Disney managed to make things even worse. They announced that they would be changing Snow White's 7 dwarves to the more politically correct Snow White's diverse group of magical creatures of all sizes and genders.
I'm sorry. You changed the name of the 7 dwarves? See, I didn't know that. You changed it to what exactly? In a Snow White movie? For what reason? For who? Who asked for this? Whose idea was this? Who let this idea take form and take place? I am so confused, but at the same time, I understand how this movie did so bad now. I mean, I understood before, but it's just really setting in now. This movie was about everything except what the movie was supposed to be about. Everything about it. The actor, the plot of the movie choice, the dwarves. This is just so laughable. If I was Disney, I would have cut the movie. I would have cut the losses. No, I don't think this is catastrophic failure. Catastrophic. Like, man, continue the video.
Photos of the cast were leaked onto the internet, which sparked outrage. These look like medieval times reenactors at the local fair. Disney quickly responded and said that these were not pictures of the actual set, but nobody believed them. The only reason Disney planned on changing the dwarves in the first place was because of a comment made by Hollywood star Peter Dinklage, who felt that the new rendition of the movie was not progressive enough.
I was a little taken back by they're very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White.
Yeah.
But you're still telling the story of Snow White.
Yeah.
And 7 dwarves.
Sure.
So you take a step back and look at what you're doing there.
Yeah.
You know. That makes no sense to me.
But
you're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the are you doing, man?
Even though Peter Dinklage.
Okay, everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's how I'm writing that up, because I don't get what her being Latina has to do with it. You're saying that makes it progressive. I don't necessarily think that it matters too much. I think you should cast the best person for the role despite their race. I think that's how it should go. The seven dwarves living in a cave, that's not progressive. I don't know what they're trying to say. Is there like, back in the day, was there some type of like, what's the word, like negative thing they said about, that they were like, is that something bad to say? I'm confused. Because it's just the way it goes in the story. In the next story, it might be a troll living in a cave. Okay? And in the next story, it might be a dragon living in a cave. I'm missing his point. Why is this video so confusing? Why is everything about this movie so confusing?
Coolidge has built an illustrious Hollywood legacy with countless roles as a little person. He seemed pretty upset with Disney. They promptly responded that they would avoid reinforcing stereotypes and would be consulting with members of the dwarfism community to make the 7 characters more inclusive. Most people just looked at this as Disney once again pandering to another social issue, but what often happens when trying to please everyone for the sake of being politically correct, you end up pleasing no one.
What they're doing is pretty much you're replacing jobs that people could have as little people. Okay. Snow White and the 7 dwarfs, it's 4 dwarfs.
Disney was panicking for a solution to make both sides happy, and nobody could have predicted how bad their solution to this problem would be. Instead of casting real actors, Disney decided to eliminate them and use CGI dwarves instead, which will provide enough nightmare fuel to last you the rest of 2025. The dwarves look like scary monsters, not cute, charming friends. The overuse of CGI in this film allowed them to take shortcuts. Instead of creating detailed artistic sets and costumes, they relied on animation, which made the film feel cheap, hollow, and soulless. Like, wasn't this supposed to be a live-action remake? Where's the live action? Why is there so much CGI? Why does it look like a really bad cartoon? Additionally, the significance of the dwarves to the story was drastically reduced. Grumpy and Dopey got a decent amount of screen time, while the other 5 dwarves were barely shown enough for the viewers to be able to distinguish them from one another. Ironically, all of these decisions were made to avoid backlash from the dwarfism community, and now the little people who were removed from the film are now planning a class action lawsuit against Disney for replacing them with cartoons. This is so ridiculous. Actress.
Let me just get a little chuckle in too, man. This is completely insane. How does this even happen? Like, literally, what are we even talking about? Like, I'm sitting here, right? And I say this in so many videos. One thing I try to do in my video is when someone says something that's rooted in hate, or maybe they have some trauma, or maybe they're just not smart enough or something, and they're trying to influence y'all in a negative way, I point out like, hey, yo, this person right here. But with this video, right, it just seems like it's full of like bad choices and people with bad opinions, and sometimes I don't even really want to say bad opinions, but like opinions that, like, the way they went about speaking about their opinion, they just did it like in the worst way possible. Like, this is absolutely just, I don't even work for Disney, and I'm sitting here frustrated. Like, what is this? I still can't comprehend what I'm reacting to. This video is literally all over the place. Let's continue the video, man. Let's continue the video.
Allie Chapman, who is 3 foot 8 inches tall, said, 7 talented little people actors could have played these roles in the live-action remake, and yet they chose to use cartoons. It's an insult and discriminatory. You ever see one of those tragic situations where it's extremely foggy and there's a traffic jam on the highway, and you have cars speeding into the fog, just crashing into each other? That is this film. And surely it couldn't get any worse, right? Wrong, because now there was a major dispute between the 2 stars of the film, Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler. Fans noticed sometime between 2023 and 2024 that Gal and Rachel may have developed some tension. As you can see in this interview, Gal is being professional, looking and smiling while Zegler is speaking. But whenever Gal is speaking, Zegler refuses to look at her, often looking down at her feet or off to the side. Their body language screams that there is tension between them, and these assumptions would be proven true. When Disney released the official trailer for Snow White, Rachel thanked the fans for their support, receiving over 120 million views in 24 hours. She used that big moment to make a political statement. And always remember, Free Palestine. While some saw this as an honorable act of solidarity, others interpreted it as a jab at her co-star. Gal Gadot is Israeli and even served in their military. Gal has been outwardly supportive of her country, specifically posting support for the IDF and civilian hostages taken during the October 7th Hamas attack. Almost immediately, Gal began getting a concerning amount of death threats. Things got so bad that Disney had to hire a personal security detail for Gadot. One of the Disney producers, Mark Platt, flew from Los Angeles to New York to have a personal crisis talk with Zegler. Platt had to remind her how much was at stake with the movie and her career before asking her to post heedfully. The son of the Disney producer was criticized online for his father trying to reprimand Zegler, to which he responded, "Yeah, my dad, the producer of an enormous piece of Disney IP with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, had to leave his family to fly across the country to reprimand his 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie for which she signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid and do publicity for. This is called adult responsibility and accountability, and her actions clearly hurt the film's box office. Free speech does not mean you're allowed to say whatever you want in your private employment without repercussions. Tens of thousands of people worked on that film, and she hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires, at the risk of all the colleagues and crew and blue-collar workers who depend on that movie to be successful. Narcissism is not something to be coddled or encouraged. Now, Rachel Zegler cannot necessarily be held responsible for the actions of other people. After all, her and her co-star are doing the exact same thing, they are just expressing support for opposite sides. But all of this could have been avoided if they just left politics out of a children's movie. But Zegler was insistent on making her political opinion heard at any opportunity she could.
Vote for Kamala Harris. And it's actually non-negotiable. Our rights are on the line, folks. Our reproductive rights. Come on. Go vote blue. And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business.
And what better time than
Listen, did Snow White just threaten us? That's what it felt like. It felt like Snow White just said it's gonna be smoke if we don't listen to her. Snow White, Rachel, did you just threaten us? Like the whole tone of that video. I'm pretty sure the guy who made this video, right, added the music to that. But still, the overall feel and the tone you set in that video, the world of social media and the internet, where anything is possible. Bro, I wasn't expecting to get threatened by Snow White.
Immediately after the election of President Donald Trump, she posted on her Instagram story, "I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred, leaning us towards a world I do not want to live in. Leaning us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in." She doesn't have a daughter, by the way. "Leaning us towards a world that will force her to have a baby she doesn't want. Leaning us towards a world that is fearful. I shouldn't be this shocked, but I am. I am heartbroken for my friends who awoke fear this morning, and I am here with you. To cry, to yell, to hug, to wax poetic on how the left continues to fail us in forging a new path forward. This loss should not have been, and it certainly should not have been by so many votes. May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace." This sent the media into an all-out frenzy, particularly conservative media, who were shocked that Disney was allowing their star to publicly condemn half the country.
Hello, Disney. You're going to have to redo your film again, because this woman is a pig, and you fired Gina Carano for far less than this nonsense.
Rachel finally crossed a line. Disney was officially fed up with her and decided to take action. First, I'm assuming they made her apologize because she redacted her comments she made about the election. From there, Zegler reportedly began working with a social media guru paid for by Disney to vet any posts before the film's March 21st debut. They essentially had someone monitoring her social media so she wasn't able to sabotage the film any further, but the damage had already been done. The film officially released in theaters worldwide on March 21st, 2025. There was a slight chance that all this negative publicity would actually draw more attention to the film, increase ticket sales, and lead to a successful debut. Unfortunately for Disney, the opposite happened. Fans knew this movie was going to suck way before it ever released, and no matter how many professional critics on Rotten Tomatoes are writing positive reviews, the fans have made their statement with a lack of support. And as a result, Snow White has suffered a disastrous opening weekend at the global box office, earning only $87.3 million worldwide, which sounds like a lot until you realize that it had a staggering $250 million production budget, which some reports suggest is actually closer to $300 million after reshoots and marketing costs. That means they had a whopping 70% loss, making it one of Disney's biggest box office bombs in recent history. This performance is nearly exactly the same as The Little Mermaid. It had the same budget and had a very similar opening weekend. However, The Little Mermaid was actually a pretty good remake with positive reviews. Fans later decided to give the movie a shot, which resulted in a $569 million worldwide box office earnings. But due to the overwhelming agreement from people who actually watched the movie that it sucks, and then people straight up boycotting, I don't think Snow White's gonna get a second wind. This is a bomb. And Rachel Zegler's response to the box office failure was nothing short of delusional.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
People who already
every time she talks, I get confused on what the point is. She talks as though, like, she's always, like, going to get somebody. She talks like if chihuahuas, the little yapping chihuahuas, if they could talk, that's kind of like Rachel Ziegler. And now listen, I'm not trying to be mean, because when she said I got flaws and I got cracks and all that, I feel you. Listen, we all need to be growing as people. We need to all be trying to do our best, Rachel. Listen, all of us. But then when you, at the beginning, when you were talking about the Louvre or something, and then at the end you said they will still come and wait in line to see her. To me, maybe it's just me, the ending came off as like a little bit, like a little narcissistic, like a little bit like she has her nose stuck up. Like I'm just confused when she talks. I don't know how else to go about this. Like, she talks into the camera as though the camera is her enemy. Like, she's sending these messages out to her enemies. She's at war right now. With who? I don't know, but you heard Snow White earlier. She out here threatening people. Let's finish the video, man.
Thought Zegler was a narcissist have officially confirmed their feelings after seeing this statement. They suspected she was trying to make this film about her. They suspected that she did not care for the legacy of Disney and that all she wanted was the spotlight for herself. And honestly, this response makes it seem like those assumptions are now justified. But it's a confusing response because the film was a massive flop. Like, essentially she's saying, haha, my movies are so great, you just have to line up and you have to watch them. But see, I don't think she said exactly that, but I got somewhat of the same tone off of it. That's exactly what I mean. Like, not the case.
What are you doing?
People are actually not waiting in line for this film specifically because of her. And as easy as it is to continuously blame her for the failure of this film, it's only fair to admit that Rachel Zegler's performance was actually decent. She is a great singer, and she definitely performed well considering most of what makes the film actually bad was outside of her control. Like most Disney live-action remakes, Snow White just felt a bit bland and lacked the magic of the original. The CGI looked cheap, the colors are dull and boring, the evil queen didn't feel very evil at all. These remakes often struggle to capture the same charm, making them feel like a corporate cash grab. But since Disney will lose money on this film, perhaps they won't make this same mistake going forward. But the biggest learning lesson for Disney here is that the internet outrage is not fake. When people say, hey, your main character is insufferable and I will not spend my money to see this movie, they're not lying. When people say they genuinely want politics to remain out of a children's movie, they are not lying.
Yeah, keep that out of kids' movies, man. Let's let the kids be kids. I was stuttering so hard right there. Let's let the kids be kids, all right? Leave them out of that, man. What are we doing?
And when people say it's better...
We're trying to recruit kids to be soldiers in politics now? Like, bro, chill.
To just invent new stories instead of alter the classics, they are not lying. The people won, but the truth is, this film should have never been made. Walt Disney himself was extremely protective of Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. This was essentially his baby. Walt reportedly rejected multiple ideas for sequels, including a proposed short called Snow White Returns, and was adamant that the original story should not be altered or expanded, as he believed Snow White was a standalone masterpiece that should remain untouched. And it's extremely evident that Disney should have honored their creator.
We made it to the end of the video. This was a great video. I made it to the end of the video and I'm still kind of confused. I don't know what to say to y'all, really. Rachel Ziegler, you did come off as very unlikable, like snobby, stuck up, narcissistic, all of that. I guess that's the exiting, closing statement. I don't understand why you did that. You can always be political and the freedom of speech and all of that, but it's the way she went about things, you know? And then it's like on top of it that you're doing it for a kid's movie, you know? And it's just, it made everything a huge mess. And your statements don't make sense. And so I guess that's the lesson of the video, guys. There's a time and a place for certain things. Even if you have good intentions, if you don't do it the right way, it will go horribly wrong. So try to make sure you check your P's and Q's, you know. And that's it. I'm still confused, by the way. But don't get confused when you hit that like, comment, subscribe button, you know. Do all that stuff. But that's the end of the video, man. We out.